The date was January 21st, 2011. The announcement came at 9 a.m. from Google's official blog. But let's give a little bit of backstory first. So the SEO elite had been shouting, making noise, sending tweets, doing Facebook updates, having a bunch of, tantrums and fits for months or even years in some cases about the sad state of Google's search results. So they felt like the big companies and brands were getting preferred treatment and higher rankings, even if it wasn't necessarily deserved, and the results that were rising to the top, to put it simply, were really, really, really bad. Wikipedia is an example of that kind of thing and a common target of their complaints. A company called Demand Media, who owns sites like eHow, Livestrong, and AnswerBag, also got a lot of the brunt of those kinds of complaints from people. So it wasn't uncommon to run a search and get like Wikipedia, eHow, AnswerBag, associated content, about.com, all at the top of the page. So here's an example of a page like that. And if you're actually looking for specific expert sort of information, this is kind of disappointing. We're getting generic keyword-driven results from sites that like eHow, How to Do Things, Easy in Articles, Livestrong, that are about the topic that we wrote, but aren't written by somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. And that's what you're looking for when you're searching, obviously. In a lot of topics, you do want to be hearing from an expert. So the SEO elite types thought that the content on these sites was typically low value and didn't deserve to be ranked so highly. So sites like eHow, How to Do Things, Easy in Articles, Buzzle.com typically have a lower content value than other sites. And I think that we could agree that that's true. So they were right about the content on those sites being pretty poorly done. And it was unique, but it wasn't great. It was surface level, it was generic, it was written off the top of the writer's head. You didn't learn much from reading these kinds of articles. See, Google was ranking these sites like, as we see here, eHow, How to Do Things, Easy in Articles, Livestrong, Buzzle.com. Google was ranking these sites on the power of their backlinks alone. Not because they were an actual authority or provided any real answers on a topic, like in this case, how to lose weight in your face. Google's just saying eHow is very authoritative. eHow has lots of links on its domain as a whole, not necessarily to this page, and therefore we're going to rank it for this because it's targeted via, the keyword targeting they did with the article. And so Google ended up getting a lot of bad press from the SEO elite, and then they also started to get some bad press from searchers as well, and folks were starting to notice that the quality of the results pages simply were not as good as they used to be because of search result pages, exactly like the one that we're looking at right now. So Google had to do something. On January 21st, 2011, they announced what that something was actually going to be. So it was a threefold change in the way that they're going to be detecting and ranking spam. So let's dig in and take a look at those changes. Firstly, they redesigned what they call their document level classifier, and I wish you could see my air quotes. I'm making them. It's the phrase is document level classifier. And what that does is it makes it hard for spammy on-page content to rank higher. So what they wrote in their blog post was that this new classifier is better at detecting spam on individual web pages, like repeated spammy words, the sort of phrases that you tend to see in junky automated self-promoting blog comments. So call it what you will, but with this algorithm change, things like SEO copywriting or auto blogging, things like that, are completely dead in the water. Google's algorithm has been changed to look for that kind of content and classify it as the kind of page that is, possibly spammy. So even if you wanted to use content that's published elsewhere to populate your own site, like auto blogging software does for you, you just can't rank with that kind of content automatically. So let's go back to our example was like how to lose weight in your face. So you can set up some auto blogging content or, software or something to post on the topic how to lose weight in your face, how to lose weight in your face, how to lose weight in your face, and it's going to post based on that key phrase because that's how you would set up the software. But Google knows now to look for that kind of thing and the repetition of the key phrases. And mind you, they happen to mention the repeated spammy words as an example of one of the things that they're looking to detect, I would be incredibly doubtful that that's the only thing that this new document level classifier is looking at. So don't think that just because your keyword density is fairly low and that you've done lots of clever trickery in setting up your auto blogging software or something, that this particular phase isn't going to affect you. So anyway, auto blogging dead, stealing people's content dead, SEO copywriting dead, spam and keyword density dead, right? So real content creation is required for your SEO nowadays. Now that's just the beginning though. So let's take a look at the second change that Google made with this update. They said, we are evaluating multiple changes, including one change that primarily affects sites that copy others' content and sites with low levels of original content. So even if we weren't dealing with the keyword density issues like we talked about above, the repeated spammy words thing, now we've got Google looking out specifically for sites that are copying other people's content and sites that have very little original content. So if you're using someone else's content, not much of your own, you are subject to penalty by this algorithm change. It's another foot in the grave for that auto blogging and the republishing of content game. So it's just not a feasible business model anymore. Although I realize that if you're watching this video, you probably already know that, right? Now, one of the shifts this particular algorithm change brings about is the ability of Google to better detect who owned or published the content originally and to rank that original publisher ahead of the folks who've republished the content. So there had been a lot of complaints about sites who are borrowing or even stealing content ranking ahead of the original writer or poster. Now, as an original content publisher, you are ahead of the game. But once again, if you're reblogging or auto blogging or and could say escape the new air quotes document level classifier algorithm that we first looked at, you can't escape this change again. Google is going to look and they're attempting to find out specifically who published content first, who owns that writing, and then rank that site ahead of the copycats, right? So again, you have got to be publishing your own original content these days for SEO purposes. There is no way around it. Now, Google wrote that attention is shifted instead to content farms, which are sites with shallow or low quality content. In 2010, we launched 2 major algorithmic changes focused on low-quality sites. Nonetheless, we hear the feedback from the web loud and clear. People are asking for even stronger action on content farms and sites that consist primarily of spammy or low-quality content. Now, this, I think, is probably the biggest shocker, shockwave, gasp, oh no thing that hit folks when this announcement came out. The content farms that we talked about earlier, sites like eHouse, sites like AnswerBag, aren't really actual spam. They're publishing original content. They aren't cloaking. They're not using black hat techniques to rank highly. And I mean, yeah, they kind of sucked, to be honest. Whenever I would run a search result, and I would never run a search result for how to lose weight in the face. I'm entirely happy with myself. No, it was a Google suggest thing. But anyway, whenever I do run a search result for one of those kinds of sites, or sorry, for a key phrase, and I see a bunch of those kinds of sites in my search results, I just don't click on them because I know that the sites aren't great. I know that the article isn't going to be that informative. If I see eHow, if I see eZine articles, I go to the next thing down in the SERPs. I don't click on those. And I may be a little bit more web savvy than many of the searchers, but I really, really doubt that I'm the only person who's finding those kinds of sites less than the best out there in our results pages. So what Google is saying with this change, looking for spammy or low quality content, is that it isn't enough to just have shallow or low quality content, even if that content is original. And remember, it used to be, content is king. As long as you're publishing original stuff, you're all good. And that's not the case in terms of this SEO copywriting, low quality content. Your content has to be up to par nowadays. So Google's saying that they're continuing to work towards a solution that won't serve up the shallow or the low quality content in the SERPs. And you have got to be producing something worth reading to get ranked highly, right? So this change, which was first announced on January 21st, and then it was implemented in the United States on February 24th, it affected over 10% of search results pages. It's one of the biggest changes that Google's rolled out in years. It's huge. And it means that we as internet marketers need to not only be on top of and aware of the changes, but we also have to be able to adjust our strategies on the fly. And that's what this course is all about. Now, we don't want you to slave over your keyboard for hours every day, but you've got to be producing something worth reading. Both because in doing so, it'll allow you to become a market leader in your niche, and because it's simply not possible for you to get that free search engine traffic any other way. Unique, original content is no longer an option. It is a prerequisite to this game.